I'm just going to let everybody look at him for a good 5 seconds before making you all gag.
We've cut childcare fees in half right across the country. We're helping Canadians who need it most with extra rental and dental supports. And we're keeping communities safe with stronger gun control. We'll keep delivering real change for Canadians. We can't stop now. Chip in today to keep Canada moving forward.
Okay, so first of all, is that not the most inappropriate music for what is going on right there? Okay, maybe I'm an idiot. I want to watch this again one more time, because when I first heard this, to me it sounded like raising charity, like raising money for Canadians in need. Like,
we've cut childcare fees in half right across the country.
Okay, good.
We're helping Canadians who need it most with extra rental and dental supports. And we're keeping communities safe with stronger gun control.
Violence is at pretty much an all-time high, but let's ignore facts. We don't want facts getting in the way of a good political spin. But hold on, we're keeping communities safe with stronger gun control. We are outlawing law-abiding citizens from procuring firearms through the most stringent process imaginable, and yet somehow gun violence, which is by and large committed with black market handguns, is skyrocketing. Okay.
We'll keep delivering real change for Canadians. We can't stop now.
Yeah, you're delivering real change.
Chip in today to keep Canada moving forward.
Okay, so am I dense? Is that clearly a fundraising campaign, or did it not seem like it was donate to help Canadians by giving money to the Liberal Party? We're delivering real results for Canadians, and we can't slow down now. Oh no, can't stop, won't stop. Contributions from Canadians help grow our movement and make all of our progress possible. Make a difference today. Make a difference. Donate today. Let me just, and then it links to the Liberal Party of Canada. Vote for me. I said the other day on Twitter, it was before the New Year's. It was actually December 31st. I said the hardest red pill, conceptual red pill that I have ever had to swallow in my life, and maybe I'm a child, I'm an infant for having only realized this as an adult. Set aside Justin Trudeau. I'm not calling Justin Trudeau Schmittler or Zedong Mao Zedong. I'm just saying, we all get brought up being taught that dictators, evil dictators, tyrannical, genocidal dictators are evil. They know that they're evil. They know that they're doing evil, and they do evil nonetheless. Like cartoonish villains just sitting around saying, how can I be evil? I know that I'm evil, and I want to maximize evil. This is not an apology or apologism, if that's a word. Sorry, that's a funny word. This is not to demean or downplay or undermine the evil. The hardest red pill for me to swallow was that Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, the other communist guy there, bigger face, what's his name? Lenin, Hitler. I now appreciate, with what I understand, that I have not the slightest doubt that they, when they were committing the most historical atrocities, somehow found a way to rationalize it to themselves and rationalize it to their constituents, rationalize it as somehow being benevolent for the greater good. Undoubtedly, Stalin, Lenin, Zedong, we must do this. The Rwandan genocide, we must do this to preserve democracy. We must do this to protect our nationhood. The most historical monsters of all time had undoubtedly no doubt in their mind they were doing good when they did it. It was just the necessary evil for the greater good. That some of you might think that's juvenile. Some of you might think it's a totally stupid thing. They all knew they were evil. They were just, laughing as they committed evil. And others are going to say, never even thought of it that way. Everybody is the hero in their own story. We know the expression. But when you put it into historical context, it puts things into current context. I started a comment coming into this because I wanted to address it. The more you know, Viva. Please be more verbose in your criticism of Trudeau. It is coming off as more emotional and less objectively critical. I understand frustration, but it becomes easier to dismiss criticism this way. The more you know. First of all, I appreciate what you're saying, and you're not wrong. What I will say is I have been verbose in the most verbose, meticulous, well thought out, well sourced critique imaginable. I will also put out tweets that say Justin Trudeau is a bad man. And then, regardless, someone who says you're not being verbose enough will take one bad tweet, and then, oh, you're being too verbose. I've lost your train of thought. I have been critical, thoughtful, and meticulous. And some days I will come out and just say Justin Trudeau is a very, very bad man, because he is. We're going to get to this in a second. So first things first, the more you know, thank you very much. And I don't mean to pick on you whatsoever. I am verbose. I am detailed. I explain it in thorough detail. I'm still waiting on the numbers of medical assistance in dying, aka euthanasia, once upon a time known as mercy killings in different eras. I want to see what the numbers were for 2022. If anybody knows what those numbers are for 2022, please let me know. I want to know, how much of a record is Canada going to smash from its previous smashing record of 10,064 Canadians euthanized in 2021? 3.2% of all death in Canada administered by the government. That is verbose enough? That is well thought out and not juvenile? 3.2% of death in Canada administered by the state. That was in 2021. That was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 3,000 more than the year before, which was 3,000 more than the year before that. I haven't looked to make sure that we're all good on Rumble. Darn it. What are the stats going to be for 2022? 20,000? Is it going to breach 20,000 medically assisted deaths in Canada? Is it going to go from 3% of death in Canada to 5% of death in Canada? We'll see. If anybody has that stat, let me know. The site can't be reached. Let me see what's going on with Rumble. Hold on a second. I'm going to refresh here, do the standard intros, and do my my sponsors. Okay, good. We're watching 3,261. Have I missed anything? The local stream earlier was good. Rob A, thank you for allowing me to plug locals. People, we have a wonderful community on locals, Robert Barnes and myself. Some people have issues with Robert. Others don't. Robert and I, we are the yin to each other's yang. We are the, who are the movie critics? Siskel and Ebert. We are the Siskel to the Ebert. We might actually literally be Siskel to Ebert, in fact. Now that I've never even thought about that. We have a great community on locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We are over 100,000 members. That is not 100,000 supporters. It's 104,000 members. It's a community as vibrant and as active as Twitter. And then there's paid supporters who get tons of exclusive content. It's the great place to be part of the community, to be involved in the discussion. Imagine Twitter with all of the insight, but none of the trolls, or minimal trolling, because trolling is not necessarily a bad thing. vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But standard intros, super chats, these little things here that you see. Pepsi Man, Scott Adams wants to sue cartoonist Ben Garrison. We'll talk about that briefly today. I don't think he's going to do it. We'll talk about it. I'm going to keep that one starred, and we'll come back to that later. And Steve Robitaille, super sticker, thank you very much. YouTube takes 30% of all super chats on the platform. If you don't like that, you want to support us, the best place, other than vivabarneslaw.locals.com, $7 a month or $70 a year for the exclusive supporting stuff. Rumble, where we are currently streaming right now. Rumble has Rumble Rants. Rumble takes 20%, so better for the creator, better to support a platform that supports free speech. Just on time, Chet Chisholm with a $2 Rumble Rant says, Viva, you and I have been trying to connect for a bit. Your brother and Max Daigle, Max Daigle, both have my contact info. Touch base with me, and maybe I can help answer a bunch of questions. 1,000%. Max Daigle, that's a name that I haven't heard in a long time. I remember exactly who he is. What was I going to say? That's it. No medical advice, no election fortification advice, no legal advice. We're going to talk about some medical stuff today, but it's going to be people who are smarter than me, who know how to do the analyzing better than me. We're going to talk about McCarthy. It's fun to watch, and I don't think it's a bad thing, and that's not for political spin. Disagreement is always good, and unquestioning agreement is more the sign of a cult than the sign of anything good. We'll get there. And what else do we have? We'll talk about Scott Adams and his fight with Ben Garrison over a cartoon. I'll see if I can pull that cartoon up. Actually, you know what? If anybody can find the cartoon and put it in the chat, that'll help. But first, I've got to do it. I got to do it because I like doing it also. You may have noticed this stream said contains a paid sponsor. Gold, people. I feel like the guy from, what was that movie? With the Rain Man. Plastics, Jerry. Plastics. No, but gold. And it's not a joke because it's easy to make money and it's easy to lose. Well, let me rephrase. It's not easy to make money and it's easy to lose money. And once you've made money, you can go and invest it in the market and take your chances there. You can invest it in Tesla, as I have done, and I'm already down 3 days in. You can invest in GM, Nortel, like I've done, and lose it all. Or you could do like the uncool thing and buy gold. And with Biden and the spending in America, you make money and you put it in the bank and just let it sit there, you're losing 8% a year because of the inflation rates now. Gold has been pretty good for the last several thousand years. It doesn't go up 10x like FTX, but it also doesn't go down 99x like FTX. It has been the standard unit of measurement for thousands of years and for a reason. Birchgold.com. Get gold, keep gold, hold gold, and it's steadier and it's more reliable than the stock market. It's less gambling in the stock market, and it also kind of feels good just to hold a gold coin in your hand. Yesterday, I showed my silver tetradrachma, which unfortunately has not gone up in value, but not because of the price of silver, just because the more of these coins that they find in subsequent lots, the more the existing ones lose value. But gold, precious metals, reliable. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA into 401k or an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to know. Go to birchgold.com/Viva to claim your free info kit on gold. 20 years experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metals. Birch Gold can help you. Birchgold.com/Viva. Can't go wrong. And I'm happy to have them as a sponsor. And maybe one day I will have my very own gold coins, which I will hold in my hand. And I will worship gold. It's idolatry, by the way, but it's also an investment. You're holding a share in a company. That company is called gold. Let me see. I saw a comment here. Spot gold prices are going up right now. $18.53 per ounce. I presume that's American. Silver is $24.35 an ounce. I made a bet on silver a long time ago, but if this was Rekieta Law, he would be showing all the cool memes that Locals chat makes for his gold. Viva is boring as F, the real hype. I will recognize that Nick is good. Let me see if I can go to the live chat in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Anyway, that's one sponsor for today. Thank you very much. Birchgold.com/Viva. Can't really go wrong. Okay, what do we start with? Do we start? Let's summarily, let's just talk about Scott Adams threatening to sue Ben Garrison over a cartoon. First of all, I like Scott. I think he's sometimes right, sometimes wrong, sometimes plays the edge of what's sarcasm versus what was sincere at the time that has turned out badly over time. So people have to appreciate the idea, like you can like someone and they can be wrong. You can like someone and they can misbehave at times. Scott Adams is smart. He's insightful. He's right on certain things. He's wrong on other things. He's human. I know, as a matter of fact, when it comes to certain things during COVID, I have disagreed with his position on things. And I'm not quite certain that I believe necessarily certain things were sarcasm at the time. I want to see if I can pull up. Here we go. Scott Adams, Ben Garrison cartoon. 17 hours ago. Let's see if we can bring this up. Okay, good. We got it here. Let me bring this up. Ben Garrison, who actually makes good political comics, made a comic about Scott Adams that Scott Adams didn't much like. Scott Adams is saying, should I sue for defamation? I don't think he's serious. I don't think he wants to get involved in a lawsuit for defamation. It might be fun, to pontificate for hyperbole. I don't think there's anything defamatory in this period, but I also don't think Scott Adams is running out to sue for defamation. It would only look silly. Listen, this is the this is the cartoon. Scott Adams is threatening to sue Ben Garrison for this cartoon. We're all looking at the same thing. No medical advice, no legal advice. It's called Ilbert, which is a play on Scott Adams' Dilbert. And it says by Clot Adams, which I didn't notice the first time. And it seems to be Scott Adams in a casket. Obey science. I must obey the science. First of all, cartoon's good. It's got something of a defining physical feature of Scott Adams. Later, you anti-vaxxers were right accidentally. You're still stupid. Take the L, dummy. And it's playing on Scott Adams, all of his elements of his cartoons, Dilbert the dog, etc. Scott Adams says, as I consider legal action against idiot cartoonist Ben Garrison for defamation, how many of you stopped following me or buying Dilbert products because you believe I was pro-mask and pro-vaccination? That's the, you read that and you read it seriously if you read all tweets as serious. I don't read that as serious. I don't actually think Scott Adams is going to sue Ben Garrison over this cartoon because there's nothing in the slightest defamatory over it. It is quite clearly opinion, quite clearly protected opinion. And the only unfortunate thing is I'm not going to get into the detail that Salty Cracker got into. Arguably supported by Scott's previous tweets where, I'm sure he, like Elon Musk, regrets some of his prior tweets on the jibby jab. Actually, this is the first Garrison cartoon I've liked. Well, when you compare Garrison to the guy in Canada, Theo Moudakis, the Canadian political commentator, cartoon guy, the difference in quality, in insight is exponential. Okay, but I am not using this to rail against Scott Adams. He's been wrong on certain things as relates to the jibby jab. Some people, it's a difficult thing to admit that you were wrong. And then I have heard Scott say, some people could have been right back in the day, but for the wrong reasons. Making a prediction that comes out to be true doesn't mean that you were right to have made the prediction at the time, because you might have made it on incomplete information or just taken a guess. That being said, this Ben Garrison cartoon is not fabricated out of whole cloth. It relies heavily and is inspired factually by prior tweets from Scott as relates to the jibby jab, as detailed meticulously by Salty Cracker in his latest video, which I also watched. But no, he's not serious. And if he's serious, can you imagine a defamation lawsuit against a political cartoonist over a cartoon, a comic? And it's not like a comic that is making any serious accusations of criminal wrongdoing. It's a cartoon that's showing how even the smartest of people, big brain Scott, can be wrong, can get caught up in fear, and can make mistakes or realize later that they relied too heavily on authorities which have been systematically corrupt, systematically dishonest, and, as we're going to see in about 2 seconds, I think criminally so. Once upon a time, I didn't trust authority, but once upon a time I said, well, what's the worst that can happen if you give me a little jibby jab, if you inject a quarter ounce, 2 millimeters of some random liquid into my body, what's the worst that can happen? I'll take my chances. I just feel very good that I had principles from the beginning. And those principles were respecting people's medical autonomy, respecting people's constitutional rights, and whether or not I made a mistake out of fear, out of social pressure, out of whatever, I stood up for the rights of those who did not want to, and I absolutely condemned demonizing people who said, I'm not trusting anything that hasn't been around for a decade before doing it. Oh, hold on. What's the slippery slope, Garrett? What's the slippery slope? Anyhow, Scott Adams is not suing anybody. I think it makes for entertaining content. It makes for good Twitter wars. It would be a ridiculous thing. But Scott, like Elon Musk, let me see if I can find that Elon Musk vaccine Twitter. Let me see if I can find Elon Musk's. At one point, Elon tweeted, this is from February of this year, no, February of 2022, I'm pro-vaccination, but anti-vaccine mandate. But that wasn't the issue at the time. Let's see who can find this tweet the fastest. I'm not going to be able to find it. Anyhow, I think a lot of us regret having been too what's the word when you defer to the authority of authorities now that we know what we know. And what do we know now, by the way, people? Do you remember back in the day when people were saying the risk of myocarditis, just a subtle little inflammation of the heart, the risk of it was they were saying like 1 in 20,000. And the fact checkers were coming out and saying, no, it's not 1 in 20,000 at all. You're way off, people. And then that came down a little bit. Then they were saying it was 1 in 1,000. The fact checkers were coming and saying, no, it's not 1 in 1,000 at all. You're way off. Let me bring up a couple of things here. There's a report that came out in Canada. Now let's make sure that we're clear. I know that we might have talked about this earlier, but if you follow me on Twitter or you're in locals, you've seen this already. Let's make sure that nobody is misunderstanding this. This is talking about the risks of myocarditis. This particular study that we're going to look at right now, or at least the summary, specifically for Moderna and specifically for the age bracket of men aged 18 to 29. So this is not to say these are blanket risks for all age stratifications, etc. This is for Moderna and Moderna only for this particular study, but we'll get to another one in a second. Specifically for the age bracket of men aged 18 to 29. Listen to this, people. This is from November 2022. Myocarditis after mRNA COVID vaccine risk, real but rare in young men. Just remember this. This is the headline. Who's going to go read the article? Inquiring minds. Who's not going to? Idiots. And what are idiots going to come away from this headline with? Rare in young men. What's the definition of rare? What's the definition of rare? I know it's contextual. Baseball cards. Who remembers that the upside down error in Upper Deck where the shortstop, I forget who it was, but the shortstop S's were upside down. Those were rare. Getting struck by lightning, rare. Would you say getting into a car accident is rare? No. Would you say, we could do this all day. What is rare? I don't know. And the idiots who read the headline and move on, they're not going to know either. And they'll be shocked if they read down. A new large Canadian study shows a small but significant increase. I'm sorry. Did they not just say rare in young men? So the headline says, myocarditis after mRNA COVID vaccine risk real but rare in young men. And the first line says, a new large Canadian study shows a small but significant increased risk in myocarditis among young men who get mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, especially the second dose of the Moderna vaccine. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm not feigning this. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Headline, rare in young men. And then the first line says significant increased risk. Oh, okay. Makes total sense. The study is published in Canadian Medical Association Journal. The study was based on outcomes seen during the BC COVID-19 cohort study, which included more than 10.2 million doses of mRNA vaccines administered to people 12 years and older from December 15, 2020 to March 10, 2022. 7 million were BioNTech, Pfizer, whatever, and 3.2 million were Moderna. And the authors examined cases of myocarditis or inflammation of the heart muscle, just that little thing, which were identified 7 to 21 days after vaccination and required hospitalizations. Listen to this. We can skip over this. The authors recorded 99 incidents within 7 days, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Males aged 18 to 29 were at the most risk of developing the condition, especially if they received the Moderna vaccine twice, Overall myocarditis rates among males in this age group were 2.97 per 100,000, which rose to 2.27%. Well, I don't know what that means, per 100,000 after the second dose. Among men aged 18 to 29 who received the Moderna vaccine, the rate was 22.9 per 100,000. It's so amazing. Why didn't they just do like 229 per 1 million or 2,000 per 10? Why did they do it per billion? It's only 24. What would it be? 2,400 per billion? I don't know. 24,000 per billion. Nothing. That's nothing in the scheme of a billion. How about we bring it down? 22.9 per 100,000. That's 23 per 100,000. I know what the answer is. I'm just going to do it this for. Oh, look at that. It's still in my calculator. 22.9. No, sorry. It's the other way around. 100,000 divided by 22.9 is 1 in 4,066. Why did I get a different number? Did I do it differently the last time? 23. Did 100,000 divided by 23. Oh yeah, the last time I did it divided by 23, not 22.9. 1 in 4,300 and change. 1 in 4,300 and change young men, 18 to 29, with the rest of their lives ahead of them. Just a cool 1 in 4,300. That's not rare. That's not rare. And that's just myocarditis, people. That's just one adverse reaction, one adverse event from the Moderna jibby jab. Listen to this. In a press release, the authors said their findings support the preferential use of the BioNTech Pfizer vaccine over the mRNA vaccine. Oh, okay. But here it is, by the way. Say the line, Bart. Say the line. Although observed rates of myocarditis were higher than expected. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you already tell us it was safe and effective? It's higher than expected? And were you lying to us? Or did you just say something that you had no business saying because you didn't have the information required to say it in the first place? Although it's higher than expected, safe and effective. The benefits of vaccination against SARS-CoV-2 in reducing the severity of COVID-19 hospital admission and deaths far outweigh the risks of developing myocarditis, the author said. Oh, really? Is hospitalization among young men aged 18 to 29 1 in 4,300? No. Gosh darn flipping liars. Say the line, Bart. Let me just get the part where I have to say it. The benefits of vaccination against SARS-CoV-2 in reducing the severity of COVID-19 hospital admission and deaths far outweigh the risks of developing myocarditis. Say it again. Say the line over and over again until you make truth of a lie. We're not even at the worst of it yet, by the way, people. Because here we go. Buckle Brush Jones. I've seen you around, and I know you're ahead of the curve. 1 in 1,000 injury rate has been fine to mandate it for schools with MMR for 20 years. 1 in 1,000 injury rate has been fine to mandate it for schools with MMR. I don't think that's accurate. MMR, Buckle Brush. I don't think that's accurate for measles, mumps, rubella. We'll agree to disagree with that, but I don't agree that stat is right. But it gets worse. Just going to make sure I'm not missing anything there. That's 1 in 4,000 for that age group with Moderna. Although there's reason to believe it's not much better with Pfizer, but Pfizer's doing their myocarditis clinical trials right now. Nothing better than doing the myocarditis clinical trials after you have forcibly forcibly coerced hundreds of millions of people to inject themselves with this substance, which they were told were safe and effective at the time. Although the risks of your heart exploding higher than expected. The risks of COVID far outweigh the risks of vaccination, and we still recommend it, even though 1 in 4,300 young men are going to have their lives substantially reduced in all likelihood, because myocarditis is not just a thing. Myocarditis is not just a thing that comes and goes. And when these doctors, these hacks, these liars, these journalists, fake news propagandists refer to a case of mild myocarditis, I have been told by people smarter than me that there is no such thing as mild myocarditis. What there is potentially is subclinical myocarditis, which might not lead to any symptoms that would require hospitalization for the purposes of identifying it as myocarditis, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any long-term lasting impacts. Subclinical does not mean mild, although you can see how liars would want to equate the two. Joseph, $5 Rumble super chat says, estimate 6 million men in Canada between 18 and 29. 100,000 equals 600 times point. That's 1,374 young affected in Canada. But one COVID death is too many. But myocarditis in young men, nothing. What was my thought with that about 2 seconds ago? Tabarnouche, I just forgot it. Oh yeah, the mild myocarditis. Subclinical versus clinical myocarditis. Neither of which is mild. It's just a question of whether or not symptoms arise at the time to allow for detection and how serious the long-term consequences are. And I'll play a bit. I want to play a clip. I watched Brett Weinstein Dark Horse podcast with Dr. Asim Malhotra, and there was a rather poignant segment of that video that came before certain recent events. And it's well worth listening to the entire podcast, but I'll just play you this clip right here after I successfully share my screen. Find it, share it here. The question many people have been asking. Brett Weinstein, Dr. Asim Malhotra. Listen to this.
Myocarditis is diagnosed at some threshold, right? Presumably, there's lots of subclinical myocarditis. Maybe there's even undetectable myocarditis. And this is not liable to be cost-free in terms of your longevity.
And by the way, just Brett Weinstein just happens to be an amazing mind. And he just happens to be interviewing Dr. Malhotra, an amazing cardiologist mind. Just, for those who want to go attack credentials.
Example. If you have a little myocarditis, not enough to cause you to seek medical attention, and then at some point in the future, you push your system beyond some usual limit, maybe that turns into a critical failure and won't be attributed to the cause from the so-called vaccines. To what extent do you think our crude measurement tools are missing damage that will actually be significant enough to alter longevity?
I think that they are missing them to a large degree, Brett. So I've managed many people in the community who would not have had a formal diagnosis of myocarditis because of the vaccine, because they developed symptoms in the community that they didn't merit as being severe enough to be hospitalized. But
pause. Or, as is the case in many places, they are shamed into not reporting their adverse effects or their adverse reactions because they don't want to be called anti-vaxxers. They don't want to be accused of being called conspiracy theorists. They don't want Justin Trudeau coming out and calling them threats to society because they're undermining public confidence in a safe and effective jippy jab that neither prevents transmission and the safeness of which is highly questionable at this point. Or at the very least, the new standard for safety is only causing myocarditis in 1 in 4,300 young men. The new standard of safety is only causing adverse reactions in 1 in 800. We'll get there.
Clinically, from the history, you could say it probably was myopericarditis, where you get involvement of the outer layer of the heart as well, and that gives people chest pain. One of my patients, a lady in her 50s, actually developed within 2 months of having the vaccine, very fit and well, good, no problems in the background, shortness of breath. And then an echocardiogram, an ultrasound scan of the heart revealed that her heart muscle pump function was severely impaired. And again, from the history, the most likely cause was the vaccine. She, again, wasn't admitted to hospital. So I suspect there's probably quite a lot of people out there that are, who are vaccine damaged, maybe don't know it, or certainly aren't coming under the statistics in the published literature of, say, 1 in 2,700. I think that's the highest figure reported.
And okay, for now, we'll see. The number keeps coming down, by the way. The fact checkers keep having to lower the bar of what they're fact checking.
In young males of prevalence of myocarditis after the vaccine, but that's specifically people who are hospitalized. So you're right, it's probably a lot of people in the community who are having vaccine damage as well. And again, how this plays out in the long term, we really don't know. But if there is any scar in the myocardium, which often happens after myocarditis, then that could be a potential substrate for rhythm disorders moving forward.
It's enough to not just cause you to question everything, but it's enough to make you actually angry. Also, when you're a hypochondriac like myself, it's enough to make you think you're having a heart attack at any given point in time. Although, full disclosure, my irrational fears of sudden death predate COVID and predate the jab by a long shot. That was a clip from Dark Horse podcast with Asim Malhotra, and everybody should watch it. And by the way, just to also illustrate that, when they talk about the adverse reaction website, Veris, and those who report myocarditis and go to hospital for diagnosis versus those who don't for whatever the reason, subclinical or too embarrassed, too humiliated, that goes for reports of adverse events at large. People are oftentimes too embarrassed or don't know, and therefore adverse event reports tend to be underrepresented by a lot. The only question is by how much. So when I said, 1 in 4,347 or 60, whatever, young men getting myocarditis, this is not me, YouTube, anymore saying this. This is now in PubMed. This is now published in Canada from a study of 10.2 million doses. No small study. This is not me talking anymore. But 1 in 4,300 and change for myocarditis, that's just one adverse event among many. What are the rates for adverse events at large? Sweet, merciful, but Jesus, it's going to blow your freaking mind if you don't know this already. If you followed us on vivabarneslaw.locals.com, you would. Or on Twitter, but Viva Barnes Law. vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Haven't done that one in a while. Oh, God. You would have already seen this if you're following me or Robert in both or either of those areas. National Library of Medicine. I'm going to forget what the word meant here, but what the acronym means, but we'll get there. National Library of Medicine from the NIH, National Center for Biotechnical Information. This is good. I mean, this is nobody can call someone a disinformation propagandist for relying on this. Serious adverse events of special interest following mRNA COVID-19 vaccination in randomized trials in adults. Some of you out there who might know what special interest means in this context, let me know. I presume it means something more serious than just a sore arm. So a serious adverse event of special interest is not going to include, fatigue or a headache. Some people have been suggesting might be more serious than just a headache, but a soreness in the arm. I think that's what it means. Wait until you read this. Okay, following mRNA COVID-19 vaccination in randomized trials in adults. This is only the summary, the abstract. In 2020, introduction, prior to COVID-19 vaccine rollout, the Brighton collaboration created a priority list endorsed by the World Health Organization, that WHO thingy, of potential adverse events related to COVID-19 vaccines. We adapted the Brighton collaboration list to evaluate serious adverse events of special interest observed in mRNA COVID-19 vaccine trials. The trials that we were told were stunning. April 1st tweet from Albert Bourla, April 1st, 2021, 100% effective in transmission, in COVID cases in South Africa. Safe and effective. The methods, and this, what I presume this means, secondary analysis of serious adverse events reported in the placebo-controlled phase 3 randomized clinical trials of Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines in adults. And you got the thing there. Focusing analysis on Brighton collaboration adverse events of special interest. Secondary analysis, not quoting myself, but from what I understand, it means it's almost a more reliable analysis than a primary or an initial analysis because there's more information, more time has lapsed, and you're basically analyzing more data. I'm not sure that I'm wrong about that. I don't think I am, but I think I'm repeating something that someone smarter than me said. Secondary analysis. Wait for it, people. Results. Pfizer and Moderna mRNA COVID-19 vaccines were associated with an excess risk of serious events of special interest of 10.1 per 10,000. That's 1 in 1,000 people who can't do the math. And 15.1 per 10,000. That's 1 in 700 and change for those who can't do the math, including myself, divided by 15.1. 1 in 662. Anywhere between 1 in 662 and 1 in 1,000 adverse reactions. Vaccine over placebo baseline of 17.2 and 42.2. 95% CI was the confidence interval. My wife told me what the CI stood for. My wife, who's a neuroscientist, so I defer to her for interpretation. Sometimes, although she doesn't give me much opinions, she just tells me what these words mean. Confidence interval. Basically, like the starting point and the end point of the incident rate, and then the average is what they have by the average. Combined, the mRNA vaccines were associated with an excess risk of serious adverse events of special interest of 12.5 per 10,000. That's 1 in 800 and change. Vaccinated, risk ratio, yada. The Pfizer trial exhibited a 36% higher risk of severe adverse events in the vaccine group, risk difference 18 per 10,000 vaccinated. Risk ratio, yada. The Moderna trial exhibited a 6% higher risk of serious adverse events in the vaccine group, risk difference 7.1 per 10,000. Combined, there was a 16% higher risk of serious adverse events in mRNA vaccine recipients, risk difference 13.2. Let's just focus on the one number here. Combined, the mRNA vaccines were associated with excess risk of serious adverse events of special interest. What's 10,000 divided by 12.5? 10,000 divided by 12.5. Let's try this one more time. My fat fingers don't even work on a calculator. Divided by 12.5, 1 in 800. Do you remember when people were floating that number around and they were called conspiracy theorists and told that they were whack jobs? No, it's safe and effective. It's safe and effective in 799 people, or at the very least, in 799 people, it's not damaging. Effective, I don't know, but it's not damaging, at least, that we know of. And by the way, these trials were for a very short period of time. That's 1 in 800 for the period of the trials, which I think was what? It was a short period of time. I don't want to make a mistake. It was a short period of time. That's 1 in 800 over a short period of time. That number doesn't go down over time. It only goes up. They said it was 100% effective at the beginning. They did. Oh God, you know what? I'm going to show you something, actually. 100% effective, Albert Bourla. That tweet doesn't even come up as the first tweet anymore. Check this out. Check this out, people. You want to see how the Google memory hole, these are the search words. 100% effective, Albert Bourla. This is the tweet that comes up. Oh, okay, it's good. It's back. Excited to share that updated analysis from our phase 3 study with BioNTech also showed that our COVID-19 vaccine, they're still calling it a vaccine, was 100% effective in preventing COVID-19 cases in South Africa. 100%. It was an April Fool's joke. I'm joking. It wasn't. That's what they said. 100% effective. And their weasel, dishonest wiggle out of this is going to say, we said it was 100% effective in preventing COVID-19, not infections, only severe illness. And it's not even 100% effective at doing that anyhow. Liars through and through. 1 in 800. Can you imagine what that means? Well, I don't know if we wanted to get angry this morning, but sometimes you have no choice. There was a super chat. Steve Vi17 says, still no journalists asking why Statistics Canada stopped reporting excess mortality in August 2022. Silence. I'm going to screen grab that and copy that and look into that afterwards. All right. Now, before we go over to Rumble. Oh, shoot. I didn't put the link there. Hold on one second. Before we go over to Rumble, link is here. Let me go to Rumble. No, let me go to YouTube and pin the link if I haven't already done it. Stop. Did I pin it? I did not. Link to Rumble. Let's do it, people. So vote with our feet. Pin message. There we go. And move over to Rumble, where we are at currently 7,195 people. Beautiful. Fantastic. 7,100 enraged people right now. Lied to with our own bodies, myself included. Just thank goodness I think I'm a principled man, never told anybody what to do with their body, and never tolerated people being punished for deciding what they wanted to do with their body. But before we go over to Rumble, people, speaking of being healthy with your body and doing the right thing, Brickhouse Nutrition I've got my 2 cables on it. I've got my bottle right here, my canister. Field of Greens, people, made by Brickhouse Nutrition. A lot of people have probably put on a lot of weight over the holidays. The holidays consist of sitting around, eating, drinking, and being merry for the most part, or eating, drinking, and being angry. I mean, it consists of eating, drinking, and generally speaking, not living as healthy of a lifestyle as we tend to do during summer. Especially in Canada, you're cooped up indoors all day. Tough to get exercise unless you force yourself to do it, as I do. But people tend to put on holiday weight. It's a thing. Most people don't know you're supposed to eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Most people don't. Field of Greens is desiccated vegetables and fruits. It is not a supplement. It's not an extract. It is dried, pulverized. I'll show you what it looks like. This. You mix it in water. Each spoonful is a serving of fruits and vegetables. You get the antioxidants. Let me just read off the label here. Full serving of vegetables, full serving of fruit, antioxidant power, boosted immunity. USDA organic approved right there. And it's good stuff. If you can't get your daily servings of vegetables, fruits and vegetables in their raw format, as most people don't, a spoonful twice a day, it's a better habit than a Red Bull, which I have not had today. And it will allow you to catch up. And it is a good alternative to a soft drink. If you go to fieldofgreens.com, promo code VIVA, you'll get 15% off your first order, 10% off a subscription. And despite what it looks like, it actually tastes quite good. So be healthy, do the right thing, and get your fruits and vegetables in there. Desiccated. When I dictate that, it turns it into defecated. Desiccated fruits and vegetables. And now I hear the construction starting. Right in time to go over to Rumble. Everybody, let's do it. This is the link to Rumble. Ignore the noise as I will try to, but I'm not good at it. We're ending on YouTube, moving to Rumble. Let's see that number drop on YouTube and rise on Rumble. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, did I do it? I think I did it. I don't think I ended yet on YouTube. Hold on a second. What's my problem?